opportunities from Nigerian businesses, policies, pathways, and carbon markets, as presented by our DG, who is unavoidably absent to take this address. So I'm taking it on behalf of him. Distinguished participants, esteemed partners, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on climate finance opportunities for Nigerian businesses, policies, pathways, and carbon markets. This timely engagement reflects our Chamber's commitment to supporting Nigerian businesses to remain competitive while adapting to the realities of sustainability, climate change, and the green economy. Across the world, climate finance has become a vital tool for unlocking investments, building resilience, and driving growth. For Nigeria, this is not only a matter of policy, it is a business opportunity that we cannot afford to ignore. Today's program has been carefully designed to bridge the gap between government policy and private sector practice. We are honored to have the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Finance and stakeholder engagements to provide clarity on national frameworks and opportunities available to the business community. We are equally delighted to host our partners from Green Carbon Incorporated of Japan, who will share practical insights into how the carbon market operates globally and how Nigerian businesses, cooperatives, and academia can actively participate. At ACCI, we believe sustainability is not a burden, but a pathway to innovation, resilience, and long-term profitability. Through our Sustainability and Business Development Unit, we continue to provide platforms like these to ensure our members and the wider business community are not left behind in seizing opportunities in the green economy. I encourage all participants to engage fully, ask questions, and explore how your businesses can connect with these opportunities. Together, we can position Nigerian enterprises as active contributors to the global climate agenda, while ensuring growth and competitiveness at home. Thank you for joining us, and I wish us all a productive and impactful session. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that great speech. Like you mentioned, at ACCI, sustainability, we see it not as a burden, but an opportunity for growth. Thank you very much, sir. I would now like to invite Mr. Ibrahim Shilling, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Finance and Stakeholder Engagements. He's going to perform two functions this morning. He's going to give us a remark and also give us a presentation on the pathway, the policies of governments, and the opportunities available for businesses. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ariel and the ACCI team. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining today's session on climate finance opportunities for Nigerian businesses. I will probably skip the opening remarks since I'm going to have a whole presentation. I think a lot of the things I'll say in my opening remarks will also be part of the presentation. So without further ado, I'd just like to welcome you all and we can jump straight into the presentation. So I think, do I have permission to share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, just bear with me. Yeah, just bear with me, please. Okay, I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So as I mentioned, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I will try as much as possible to make this presentation high level, just so that we understand general framework. Okay, thank you. So I mean, my presentation will focus on Nigeria's policy framework and opportunities available for businesses to access and benefit from climate finance. I'll cover policies, pathways, and carbon markets, and highlight how private sector players essentially can position themselves within this space. So just to set the scene and why climate finance matters for Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change, despite us having, negligible emission levels in terms of global emissions. We do take the brunt of, climate change. We're already seeing almost annual flooding. We're seeing desertification in the Sahel regions of the country, droughts, heat stress, which is also affecting our agriculture and food security. So in order to achieve our climate goals, according to the 2021 nationally determined contributions that Nigeria submitted to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, we require nothing less than about $20 billion annually up to 2030 to be able to meet up with our NDCs. And it's been recognized that government alone cannot essentially bridge that gap. So the private sector is vital to ensure that climate finance is not just something that government is focused on, but private sector certainly has a large part to play. So it's not just about the environment now. We also have to look at climate and climate change and climate finance as also an economic and business opportunity that people are keying into globally. So the objectives of this presentation is for us to just get a understanding of Nigeria's policy framework. We'll highlight some opportunities for businesses to look at and also explore this emerging carbon market as a pathway for businesses to key into at this early stage. All right, so where are we in terms of policy? So high vulnerability, as I mentioned earlier, plus a large financing gap. Now, that means that there are potentially opportunities there. Whenever there's that financing gap, it means that there are opportunities for private sector to play. And it's important that private sector also understands government's position so that they can also know where the potential areas to play, to enter. Currently, 75% of our climate financing has mainly coming as loans, so multilateral loans from the likes of the World Bank and other multilateral agencies, some private debt. But what that does is it creates a fiscal problem for the country. We are already dealing with a large debt burden. And climate change is a necessity, or in terms of financing climate adaptation, is a necessity so that we don't also lose out on our GDP. It's projected that if we continue with a business as usual trajectory, by 2050, we stand to lose about 6% or more of our current GDP. So you can imagine that given where we are as a country, we really need to start looking at climate change as an economic issue and not just an environmental one. And certainly the private sector has been underutilized, and it's important that we find that link between climate finance, private sector growth, and green industrialization. Because we are, after all, talking about a problem that's not just isolated to a particular area, but it will affect the country as a whole, and most especially the private sector. Now, essentially, there are two policy frameworks. I'll say two for now, just to keep it simple. Nigeria has the nationally determined contributions, as I mentioned earlier, which has been submitted to the United Nations. That is a commitment that the country has made in terms of reducing its emissions, but also in terms of highlighting areas for investments that the country requires. So the key sectors, you're looking at agriculture, forestry, and land use, otherwise known as AFOLU. We have the energy sector, we have waste and water. So these are some of the key sectors that potentially investments are needed. But that is also not limiting. There are also other areas that, circular economy, for instance, that could also use much needed investment and create a significant number of jobs. Now, the Climate Change Act of 2021, signed by the previous administration, established the National Council on Climate Change, which provides essentially the institutional leadership under the presidency to be able to coordinate various activities of the various ministries, departments of agencies of the country to ensure that climate change is not simply an environmental issue, but a cross-cutting issue that affects the economy. So as such, the government decided there was a need for a central coordinating body that is able to essentially provide that institutional leadership. We also have the Energy Transition Plan of 2022. Again, that was done in the previous administration, but it's still very much part of Nigeria's climate change and net zero pathway. Now, the Energy Transition Plan is looking at a funding of about $1.9 trillion by 2060 for us to achieve net zero. Tied to that is also another document submitted to the UN, being the long-term low emissions development plan. Now that also sets Nigeria on a pathway to net zero. Now, what this all means, I mean, we have all these policy frameworks, but what does that mean for you as a business? It means that these are where the opportunities are going to emerge. And it's important that we are well aware of some of these policy frameworks as businesses or business owners to be able to position. Now, if you have an existing business, there's also opportunities to see how to transition to a net zero pathway. Again, I won't deep dive into some of the more practical aspects. I think other people will cover that, but it's important to highlight that so that businesses are able to start looking at where the opportunities will be in the near future. So it leads me on to this slide in terms of alignment. So regionally and globally, what is happening? We cannot be isolated in Nigeria. We have to start looking at what is happening globally to be able to position our businesses, not just for Nigeria, but also to be able to scale at an international level. I hope I'm still audible, and I hope you can still see the slides. If so, please just a thumbs up.
You're audible, Mr. Shelling. This is Dr. Basham.
Thank you. All right. So, as I said, beyond national policies, Nigeria is engaging both regionally and globally. We have the African, Free Trade Agreement, which will provide opportunities for low carbon trade. Although this has not been fully actualized, but I think it will certainly provide significant opportunities for, continental trade. The African Carbon Markets Initiative, although currently undergoing some form of restructuring, but it aims to unlock about 300 million credits annually by 2030, and Nigeria is a key participant in that. So at the global level, we also have the Paris Agreement, Article 6 on carbon trading, which essentially now allows countries to trade their carbon credits. There's Article 6.2, 6.4. Again, I won't delve too much into the technicalities of this, but what this does essentially is it provides a framework for potential developers to develop a carbon projects that are able to generate credits and are able to sell these credits on internationally. There is a framework in place which will hopefully be approved anytime soon. which provides that policy framework and clear institutional guidelines for developers, that's project developers now, to be able to tap into this market. And because it's important, we are talking about, bringing in much needed foreign investments that are non-debt. So, this is particularly important for us or for businesses in Nigeria to understand carbon markets and to see where the opportunities lie. Both as project developers, but also, service providers within that space. So what are the pathways? Green and sustainable finance instruments. Nigeria was the first African sovereign nation to issue a green bond in 2017. This also led to further issuances in 2019 and recently in 2025. So that this does show Nigeria's commitment certainly within this space. There's also blended finance instruments that are happening with the likes of the infra credit and the NSIA, really to be able to de-risk large-scale climate financing to the country. We do have a high perceived risk in the country, which kind of limits our ability to significantly pull in funding. However, we have, as I said, blended finance and concessional finance facilities that the infra credit and the NSI are working on, which will hopefully reduce the cost of some of this funding. But where can private sector play currently? Climate smart agriculture. Of course, we all are aware of the situation when it comes to food insecurity. And yes, there are going to be certain barriers to that, in terms of things like insecurity that's limiting our agricultural potential. But again, this again provides opportunities. Renewable energy is probably the largest attractor of climate financing currently. And as we speak, we still have not tapped into the full potential. Massive potential in that space, and increased funding opportunity in the renewable energy space. Circular economy again is an untapped area, simply because the funding requirements and the startup requirements tend to be prohibitive. However, there are opportunities in that space. Green housing is another one. So the IFC, for instance, have the IFC Edge certification for green buildings, and potential opportunities for low cost funding within that space readily exists. Looking forward, we can look at potential export opportunities under the AFTA, as I mentioned. Things like low carbon products and services that that could emanate from Nigeria and potentially be exported to other African countries. Now, carbon markets, as I mentioned, is a potential new frontier that Nigerian businesses could look into. The voluntary carbon market currently is, has been in place, and there have been several businesses in the past that have been able to deal within this space. However, due to lack of a regulatory framework in the past, what tended to happen was that carbon credits emanating from Nigeria don't necessarily derive the kind of value that's required. But with the current Nigerian Carbon Market Activation Plan in place that sets about the institutional framework and the policy and manual of procedures, what that does is it provides that level of clarity, for carbon projects coming out of Nigeria, and hopefully in turn, what we'll see, are the effects in terms of pricing of carbon credits that emanate from Nigeria. So it's important that this regulatory framework is in place and provides that clarity. There's also a compliance market in carbon markets. We are not there yet because we have essentially looked at a backward integration process with our carbon markets. With that, what we're looking at is foreign investors are able to come into Nigeria and pre-finance potential carbon projects. And over time, what we hope to see is, developing capacity within that space as funding comes into that space, and is able to trickle through, we're able to also get that funding to trickle into our businesses. So we're able to generate more and more projects, in the country with potentially, non-debt funding. So where can businesses participate? Capacity building is key. You need to understand what is happening in carbon markets in terms of project development, in terms of even the trading aspects of carbon. And then there are also requirements for corporations to also meet their net zero ambitions, which helps the country meet its NDCs, and also provides avenues for funding as well. So from a high level basis, this is some of the pathways that businesses in Nigeria could begin to focus on. So just to mention some of the opportunities that I've previously mentioned, this picture just shows the African Mini Grid Developers Association and InfraCredit signing a collaboration agreement to unlock domestic capital, again, for distributed renewable energy and mini grid development. So as I mentioned, this is one of the spaces that currently attracts, perhaps 70% of our climate funding within the country. We all know the situation with regards to our power and our current grid, and the solution for that are distributed renewable energy solutions and mini grids. So I mentioned the green bond program. Aside from the federal government that has issued green bonds, we've also had corporate issuances. Access Bank in 2019 with a 15 billion that went into renewable energy. You have North-South Power that did 8.5 billion in 2019. 1 Watt Solar, which funded again, renewable energy solutions and some housing. North-South Power also reissued again in 2021 with 6.32 billion. So the space is there, and corporate issuances have shown that corporations in Nigeria are able to raise funding for climate action, both domestically and internationally. It's actually a shame that we don't have more and more of these issuances. And certainly one of the things that my office is focused on is to see how we can certainly mobilize more private capital and see how we can have more of these corporate issuances in Nigeria to tackle our critical adaptation needs, within the country. And as I said, some of the leaders in terms of, financial institutions like Access Bank, I think Sterling Bank are also doing some good work within this space. So it'll be good to see more and more of these corporate issuances that are able to go into adaptation financing within the country. InfraCredit has done a fantastic role in de-risking some of the funding that has come in by providing credit enhancements and guarantees, which has led to things like some of the mini grid projects that we've seen, renewable energy businesses. Clean cook stoves are the buzzword right now because again, it provides massive opportunities and tackles various SDG goals as well, including things like health, women's health, vulnerable groups, tackling deforestation and the like. So again, these are some of the low-hanging projects that are able to generate credits if you have the right framework in place and the right monitoring, reporting, and validation processes to ensure that you're able to capture these credits. There's also green housing, as I mentioned. The IFC is very big on green buildings and green housing, and funding from the IFC for EDGE certified developers are potentially in place and can be used as a potential blended finance instrument to help developers within this green space. Integrations with regional integration in terms of carbon markets is going to also be key, because carbon markets are still quite relatively new in this country. So being able to have essentially not only the capacity building, but also being able to see what our peers are doing within the region, to be able to generate or develop these projects that generate credits that are also tradable in the global markets is certainly important. So as I mentioned earlier, there will certainly be challenges. The barriers currently, once you actually read them, it doesn't even limit it to climate finance, but generally what we face, with SMEs in Nigeria, access to finance is certainly a problem, an issue. But again, I think what climate financing does is that you're able to because of the commitments that the developed countries have made to provide funding for climate action in developing countries. This does provide a level of opportunity that makes it slightly easier maybe to attract some of this funding. But what is required is the right type of projects that are able to attract that funding. We also need the right MRV systems. And policy uncertainty, I think, in the past has certainly not helped to position our businesses, but I think that is slowly unraveling. And what the government is really focused on is ensuring that there's that clarity for both domestic and foreign investors in terms of coming into this space. So the enablers that are going to help us achieve some of this, strong partnerships, capacity building, and then access to international funding, which will hopefully come through by the time we have operationalized our climate change fund. The Ministry of Finance is also developing another fund that will seek to mobilize and scale significant level of funding that can go into early stage de-risking of projects within Nigeria. So what does that mean? Typically, projects are riskiest at the early stages. So if businesses are not able to do comprehensive feasibility studies due to lack of funding, provide first loss funding, for instance, this is where we see the climate change fund being able to facilitate, providing grants to early stage projects so that they're able to do comprehensive feasibility studies. And be able to provide, first loss positions, so that also helps to scale significant financing. If we don't have skin in the game, we will find it difficult to essentially mobilize significant capital, from offshore. So it's important that government also provides its own skin in the game and help to de-risk, the potential business and projects that will emanate from the country. Corporate ESG integration. Now, this is another thing that is important. So from a private sector perspective, it's important now that we start to integrate ESG principles into our businesses. It's not just a matter of following a trend. What it actually is that, the businesses that are able to integrate early on will certainly find it much, much easier to raise funding in the near future. And businesses that are not aligned to ESG
containing area transmitter.
There's just a bit of noise in the background.
Please restrictions to apply to the bathroom.
Yeah, thank you. So it's vitally important now that I think businesses, no matter how small, but any structured business really needs to start looking at ESG integration and aligning with what is happening regionally and globally, because as I said, the opportunities to scale will be limited if you don't have some level of ESG integration. The Climate Change Act of 2021 also stipulates that businesses that have, I believe, 50 employees or more are actually mandated to not only report regularly on their sustainability frameworks, but also have a dedicated desk officer, for ESG and sustainability within their companies. So it's important that we start to understand these things, and as businesses, really start to key in and align with what is happening from a global perspective. So I'll just round up quickly. I said what I think policy, in terms of policies now, we do actually have quite a number of policies within this space. But I think it's important for businesses to start to align and to seize the opportunities that climate finance opportunities provide. There is a need for collaboration. There is a need for public-private partnerships, and also the key aspect of climate finance that certainly we need to be focused on is compliance and transparency. Generally, you see that climate financing tends to be it's usually paying you for work done, right? So whether it's emissions reduction that is done, then you get payments for it. So it's unlike with other sorts of financing where perhaps you get a loan. Climate financing tends to fund activities done. But again, this is where you get your competitive advantage if you're able to provide or put in place proper compliance frameworks, monitoring, reporting, and verification systems. That will lead to that competitive advantage for your business. So that comes to the end of my brief presentation. As I said, I think there's a lot more to unpack, but I tried not to load too much on this, but I'll be more than happy to continue some of these conversations with the ACCI to see how we can help businesses. So thank you very much, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Mr. Ario, am I do questions or do we leave that till later?
I really want to ask mine now.
Okay, we actually would like to take the questions after the second presentation so that we can put our thoughts together. I would just request you kindly note our questions down so that after the second presentation, you can ask from either of the presenters. That would work for us.
Okay, noted.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. Once again, we sincerely appreciate your presentation. You've really shown us the perspective of what the government is doing, and you've really shown us the pathway from carbon markets to the need for knowledge sharing, the regional opportunities from AFCTA to the African carbon market initiatives, and several opportunities we have actually shown us, and it's really an information that a lot of us are, okay, for me, and I believe so many other persons on this platform are not really aware of this, and you've really broken down the presentation that each stakeholder can know where to align and where the best part which they can take advantage of. Once again, thank you very much. Please, we would like you to stay on the call so you can take the questions. Now, we would like to just take the second presentation from Green Carbon. Green Carbon is a Japanese firm that sells and buy carbon credits. Their vision is to save the earth through the power of life. So, and they operate in the business of developing and selling nature-based carbon credits. So I would like to invite Farah San to give us a presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Ario, for this brief introduction, and thank you for this opportunity to be able to participate in the involvement of the carbon market in Nigeria. So let me please share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but not on slideshow, maybe.
Yeah, let me just put it on slideshow right now. What about now?
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you everyone for being here today. It's a quite great opportunity to be among the initiations of the Nigeria carbon market. So as Mr. Ibrahim mentioned earlier, carbon market is really important for mobilizing and boosting financial investment into Nigeria, and also achieving the NDC and target that was set before. So today we will walk through a brief introduction of our company, Green Carbon, and then we will demonstrate what is carbon market, what is carbon units, and how it is generated. And then we will provide an actual example of our current projects currently in Vietnam. And then we explore success stories of other African countries that are leading the way in the carbon market, and the opportunities that we see for Nigeria. So we're starting by the company profile. So our company overview, our vision, as Ariel mentioned earlier, is to save the earth with the power of nature. And we have been established back in December 2019. Our head office is in Tokyo, Japan. We have different branches across Australia, Vietnam, Philippines. As for Thailand, India, and Cambodia, it's coming soon. We have more than 200 members in our company, and we have multiple projects by contract base. Our main shareholders are Japanese financial institutions, such as MUFG, SMBC, and others. And our main focus is on nature-based carbon credit, including mangroves, AWD for rice paddies, biochar, livestock, research and development, as well as carbon farming. So Green Carbon, we have more than 40 projects across 10 countries, using over 8 nature-based methodologies in 7 different compliance and voluntary market registered, and is committed to building partnerships beyond just 4 continents. So we have in the Philippines, AWD projects, biochar, ARR project, and mangroves. As for Japan, we're mainly focusing on J-credit, which is a compliant market here in Japan. As for Vietnam, we have AWD and biochar. Thailand, we have AWD project and biochar project. As for Cambodia, we have AWD project and also expanding to more, as well as in Malaysia and Australia, we're focused on carbon farming. So our project development record is from AWD for 1.5 million hectares, a mangrove 1,000 hectares, regenerative agriculture 50,000 hectares, biochar 6,000 tons per year, inland reforestation 4,000 hectares, and livestock still in the pilot phase. And all of these using different methodologies, such as GSAM, Gold Standard, and Pure Earth, that we will later on dive deeper into. And these are just like pictures of our collaborations in Vietnam and different countries. So our business model, so we are Green Carbon, we are the project developers of the decarbonization projects. So we manage the entire process from project development to carbon credit delivery. So our corporate sponsors, they are mainly financial Japanese institutions and companies that they will provide funding. And then as a project developer, we will convert this funding into free consultation, financial and technical supports to help farmers implement the new technology to reduce emissions. So for farmers, they will have extra income from the decarbonization activities. And that's where they are their main stakeholders, shareholders in our business model, because that's where the magic happens, where we can be able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And then as in return, these greenhouse gas emissions will be transformed into carbon credits that then will be later on given back to the corporate sponsors. So our initiatives, we have project registration under different organisms, as I mentioned earlier, and we collaborate closely with local universities. We are developing our Green app for a one-stop platform service mainly for MRV, monitoring, reporting, and verification of our projects. As we have also wide range activities in Japan that I mentioned earlier for J-Credit. And also we are collaborating with JAXA for satellite imaging to enhance our data. So let's talk about the basics. So what is carbon credit? So carbon credits are permits that allow the owner to emit a certain amount of CO2 or other greenhouse gases. So we can see here companies, they are emitting emissions, CO2 emissions, and they want to purchase to offset unavoided emissions. So by providing them the financial aspect, the money in this case, they will be able to generate credits by GHG reduction projects to reduce or absorb CO2. And these will be given back again as a carbon credits to be able to offset their emissions. So there are different types of carbon markets. We have compliance and we have voluntary. So for the compliance, there are legally binding emission targets, and their purpose is to meet legal emission targets, and the credit pricing is higher. As for market value growth to $300 billion USD by 2030, and project standards such as JSAM and CDM. As for voluntary, it is credits bought without legal obligations, ESG and carbon neutrality commitments as a purpose. As for the financing, the pricing is based on demand and project type, so it's fluctuating compared to the compliance market. As for the value is below the compliance, and it's 1,000 billion USD, and project standards such as Vera, Gold Standard, and others. So for the compliance market, we can see there is the United Nations, which is the CDM, Carbon Markets Express. For the bilateral is a joint crediting mechanism with Japan. And for the domestic, we can find J-Credit in Japan and TIVR for Thailand. As for voluntary, as well, Vera, Gold Standard, or Pure Earth. And Green Carbon is pioneering and acquiring and developing carbon credits for international nature-based projects. So what is JSAM? JSAM, Joint Crediting Mechanism. It is a bilateral carbon credit system agreement between Japan and partner countries under the Article 6.2 of the Paris Agreement, as it supports emission reduction projects abroad while transferring technology and funding as well as knowledge. And as of August 2025, Japan has established bilateral agreement with 31 countries. Well, Nigeria is not yet among them, but we really highly recommend in joining this mechanism to mobilize and boost the Japanese financials and investment. And we have different certification status of AWD projects in the compliance as well, voluntary. So for the compliance we have in Philippines, as voluntary we are having under Vera and Gold Standard in different provinces. So before diving into specific case study, I want to first explain what is alternate wetting and drying, AWD, and what does it matter. So methane gas emissions from paddy fields, wetland only. Paddy fields is a source of methane gas emissions. So methane gas is a kind of greenhouse gases which has 28 more of greenhouse effects of CO2. So in global figure, GHG emissions from agricultural sector is estimated to be 5.4 billion tons, out of which 10% are produced from rice cultivation. So why methane gas emitted from paddy fields? So when paddy fields are flooded with water, so we know in a normal rice paddy, in a rice cultivation, the rice will be always flooded with water. So the anaerobic bacteria that produces methane gas becomes active. As we can see here, the bacteria is very active and alive and emitting a lot of emissions. So if the fields are kept dry for a couple of days, the methane gas production is less active. Why? Because the bacteria now is less active and it's not emitting methane. So by introducing alternate wetting and drying approach to rice farming, we can reduce methane emission and water usage while farmers can earn extra income from the decarbonization activities. So this is the conventional management, uses continuous flooding in paddy fields, constant water coverage, creates anaerobic conditions, which activate methanogenic bacteria and produce methane. So as for the AWD approach, we implement controlled cycles of flooding and drying. This suppresses anaerobic decomposition in the soil, reducing methane emissions and conserving water. So we can see here, the paddy field a little bit, for a certain period, it's flooded with water, and then we drain the water to have a dried paddy field, and then we fill it again with water, and we dry it again with a very controlled and defined cycle. So to have as an outcome, we will have methane gas reduction, reduced water usage, and also extra income to farmers. So now let's go back to a real case study of Vietnam in one of our projects currently happening. So in Vietnam, Green Carbon has gained valuable experience working closely with relevant stakeholders. We have been able to carry out coordination with stakeholders, training for farmers, and project operation and management successfully. And these are some actual pictures from our shareholders, stakeholders meeting and the training with the farmers. And these are actual imaging of the operational site. So for AWD project results, we have confirmed that methane gas reduction effect in many projects, including the earliest development in Guyana project. Many of these projects has achieved around 50% reduction. And we are confident that they make a significant contribution to reducing agricultural emissions. So these are from actual primary data in our field. As we can see here, for the gray one is the continuous flooding without applying any technology or any decarbonization method. And this is the actual CH4 emission in global warming potential level, which is 50% less. So these are actual data. Then if we go and see about the yield, so in addition, compared to the rice cultivated using conventional methods, there has been a noticeable trend of increased yield. So we can see here for Guyana, we see that 6% increase of yield. As for Nam Dinh, another city, it's 8% increase and 22% increase in Vinh Phuc and other and more increase in different. So it's different based on the field. So also, if we can see about the AWD fields, we can see that the rice is really healthy and has grew vigorously and healthily. As for the continuous flooded field, we see signs of flooding and pests and diseases, which has like a damage observed. So as shown in the photo, even during periods when continuous flooding led to lodging or pest and disease damages, the rice grown under AWD remains strong and healthy. So for the confirmed secondary effects of AWD, we have an increased yield. So AWD promotes healthier rice growth, resulting in an average yield increase of approximately 5%. As first pesticide reduced, AWD improves rice plant health, making them more resistant to diseases and allowing for reduced pesticides applications. And since AWD does not require continuous flooding, so water usage is reduced, and therefore it is a cost savings for farmers. And now for the MRV that Mr. Ibrahim mentioned earlier, which is monitoring, reporting, and verification, we are developing our own Agreen platform to help digitalize and enhance transparency and visibility. So Agreen is a streamline for entire carbon credit lifecycle with AWD water management projects, from pre-assessment to issuance and trading of carbon credits. It connects farmers, equity investors, off-takers, and government, ensuring alignment with national carbon market and supporting NDC tracking. So it has like 3 dimensions: Agreen application, Agreen website, and Agreen data. And for the Agreen data, we're collaborating with WeGrow using the DNDC model, GHG emission reduction estimator in agricultural projects. So for the platform overview, it has methodology determination, credit application, credit registration, and credit sales. And it's mainly targeted for off-takers in government to be able to track down the whole project lifecycle from farmers up to the end. As for the application, it's dedicated for farmers to be able to include and log in their farmer logbooks, and we have all the data here digitalized. And for Agreen application, we're currently now testing it in Vietnam, where our colleague Sakino-san have went to Vietnam a couple of months ago to test it with the farmers, and we're currently implementing feedback. So now let's go how Nigeria can access climate finance. Now that we have seen an actual and success story, now let's dive deeper into how Nigeria can access climate finance. So Nigeria, as Mr. Abraham mentioned earlier, received roughly 2.5 billion in 2021 USD, which is far short of its annual needs of about 27.2 billion USD, with most funding coming from public sources, such as government and multilateral. So for channels, we anticipate that Article 6 Paris Agreement, the joint crediting mechanism I just mentioned, as well as other channels. So with international support, Nigeria can cut emissions by 47% by 2030. So one of the neighboring countries, Ghana, has accessed climate finance. And how does that happen? Because Ghana has submitted first initial report on 14th of September 2023, cooperative approach on the CA002, climate smart rice cultivation with Switzerland. So now Ghana is already earning revenues from a carbon credit paddy field project. With our expertise in paddy-based carbon project, Green Carbon can help Nigeria capture similar opportunities to generate income from carbon credits. And also, there are other African countries having access to climate finance through the joint crediting mechanism, partnering with Japan, such as Ethiopia, Kenya, Senegal, Tunisia, and Tanzania. And for project opportunities, examples for Nigeria, we see a high opportunity for alternate and wetting and drying in rice fields, for reforestation as well, including biochar. And these opportunities highlight Nigeria's potential to cut emissions, strengthen ecosystems, and improve farmer livelihood through AWD, reforestation, and biochar. Thank you so much, and I'm very open to questions once Ariel gives the cue. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the team from Green Carbon. Thank you for the presentation. It's really give us a deeper perspective of the practicalities and some of the importance. Like, thank you for also trying to define the basics, like the Green Carbon Credit, AWD, so that every participant can understand where you're speaking from. Thank you very much for the presentation. We'll now open the floor for questions. Let me confirm if, so is anyone that has a question, you can just raise your hand so we can identify you. And also, let me confirm if Mr. Ibrahim is still on the call, because I think we have some questions for him also.
Yeah, still here.
Okay, thank you, sir. So please, if you have some question, please let us. Okay, Mr. Afiz Ibrahim, please can mute yourself and speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lanre. To
Good
my
afternoon.
boss, Mr. Ibrahim Sheleng. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hafiz.
Yes, sir. My question is on how climate finance is currently assessed, mobilized, and distributed in Nigeria currently, sir.
Yeah, so good question. So currently what we have are the bulk of financing tends to sit with multilateral institutions. So whether it's the likes of the UNDP, the likes of the IFC, and other major institutions, World Bank and the likes, and access is usually through MDAs, or also some private sector institutions, if they're able to develop comprehensive proposals, are able to access. Now, the issue has been in the past that Nigeria does not have its own what they call direct access entity for things like the GCF, which is the Climate Fund. However, as at last year, the Development Bank of Nigeria was accredited by the GCF to be Nigeria's first direct access entity. So what that means is that the DBN is able to access financing directly from GCF, and private sector and other developers are able to approach the DBN for that funding. So I hope that makes it clear. We also have 4 other institutions in Nigeria.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. The mobilization of finance, sir. You have not spoken on that, sir. Please.
Sorry, say that again.
The mobilization of finance for climate change, sir.
Yes, so that's what I mentioned. Nigeria now has a direct access entity in the DBN.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
We also have 4 other Nigerian institutions undergoing that same accreditation process so that they're able to now access funding directly from the GCF, which is the largest climate finance institution that's supported by the UN. So that's where the bulk of funding usually goes to, as I mentioned earlier, goes to the large multilateral institutions, whether it's the UNDP, whether it's the World Bank, IFC, right? And then potential projects are able to apply for funding from those institutions, right? Whether it's via the ministries, departments, and agencies, or private sector. Yeah, but now that Nigeria has its own direct access entity, it makes it slightly easier for us to pull in some of that funding.
Thank you, sir. Sir, do you mind to share the 4 other entities currently undergoing accreditation, sir?
Sure. We have the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, the NSIA. Yes, we also have NERSAL PLC. We also have Bank of Industry.
Okay, sir.
We also have InfraCredit.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Has anybody come to check on?
Thank you, Mr. Bon. Do you have any other person that request?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Akim Adeyemi. Having had the presenter go through the route of green financing and how Nigeria could assess his way of funding a green initiative. Well, I had this the follow-up speaker talk about the 4 institutions that has direct access entity. Made mention of DBN, NIRSAL, and the rest. My question goes thus: looking at the domestic challenges that might spring up or that Nigeria is currently facing, talking about high domestic inflation, currency depreciation, and domestic energy crisis in Nigeria. How well could the green carbon incorporation look at these challenges and mirror down some solutions to the country, though we are not in the limelight yet, to the country green financing situation. Lastly, too, we could see that for now, all these institutions that have been mentioned, there are inadequate private sector involvement for now. How well could we develop these, maybe in the area of the capital market and ongoing banking reforms or recapitalization to fit into this initiative? Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if that question was directly for me.
To the presenter.
Mr. Akim, which of the presenter is it? Presentation from Green Carbon or from Mr. Ibrahim?
The presentation on green carbon, she made mention that Nigeria is not there yet. When she talked about the Japan and other countries where she made mention, how well could we position ourselves into this limelight? That's one. And secondly, incorporating private sector involvement in this situation. I think Mr. Ibrahim can answer the second question. Thank you.
Okay, Farah-san.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Akim. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you for the insightful questions. So from a project developer perspective, to be able to mobilize and position Nigeria in a very advantaged position is to actually create a carbon market. So once the carbon market is set for project developers, then we'll be able to invest in Nigeria. And then in return of this investment, the carbon credits will be exported outside of Nigeria. Because mainly the investors were gonna be offshore, they will be international investors. And as an international investor, in return, they want to get access, to get ownership of the carbon units, to be able to reduce their carbon, their pollution on the climate. So in order to do so, Nigeria needs to establish a carbon market that allows for the carbon units to be exported outside of Nigeria under the NDC and also the non-NDC related. So for the compliance market, we have JCM, and JCM is a Japanese compliant market under the Article 6. So under the JCM, we have two types of JCM. We have private JCM and we have public JCM. So you mentioned earlier, you highlighted the importance of private JCM, the private investment. So under the private JCM, mainly Japanese government or Japanese companies or other companies that they are interested in JCM, they will approach us and they will see we have like this financial and we are very interested in this country and we're interested in doing this kind of project. So once we have the carbon market established, these financial and investment from private sector will be mobilized inside Nigeria. So as for the voluntary market, for voluntary market, it's the price of the voluntary market it's kind of low compared to compliance, but it's case by case basis. It depends on the methodology, on the technology, and on the MRV in general, and the level of the technology applied. So using the voluntary markets such as Gold Standard, Vera, or like Pure Earth, depending on the methodology, then the credits needs to be exported outside of Nigeria. So again, as an investor and as a project developer, they need to be able to export these carbon units outside of Nigeria. As I said, non-NDC and NDC related. And basically for voluntary market, it's non-NDC related, which means that Nigeria will not include it in their NDC. So we will avoid like double counting, so that the company will be able to claim the ownership of these carbon units to offset their emissions. I know these are like really technical wordings. I hope I delivered the message, and please let me know if you still have other additional clarifications. Thank you.
Yeah, Ariel, just wanted to add to what Farah said. So as I mentioned in my presentation, this is the reason why it's important that we have a solid carbon market framework. Okay, because what it does is it provides that transparency and clarity for foreign investors that are coming into the space to be able to understand the processes, the institutional frameworks, and the regulations within our carbon market space. Because as Farah had mentioned, for instance, in the voluntary market, the prices are very low, and what you'd have is that potentially people coming doing projects in Nigeria, taking away some of that credit without it also impacting on our NDCs. So this framework allows us to be able to regulate the space, which also provides more integrity to our credits and increases the price per ton of CO2 that's emanating from Nigeria. So just to kind of add to what Farah said and provide clarity for Mr. Akim. Mr. Akim, I think your question on private sector involvement is key. Yes. However, just to understand that some of the challenges with getting accreditation by the GCF can be quite cumbersome and stringent. I mean, some of these entities have been going for maybe up to 3-4 years trying to get that accreditation. So the reality is that some of the private sector entities may not be able to meet up with the requirements for accreditation. However, the current institutions that we have that are undergoing that accreditation, essentially what they're doing as direct access entities is that these funds are now being warehoused or domiciled within Nigeria, rather than it being maybe in the World Bank or the UN, UNDP or the likes that are global institutions and have, they're dealing with various other countries apart from Nigeria. With that direct access that we now have, what that means is Nigerian-focused projects are able to access funding from Nigerian entities. So I think that what that does, it makes some of the kind of access to climate finance a little bit faster. And these entities also are aware of Nigerian nuances and some of the challenges faced. So certainly when it comes to trying to access this funding, they are best placed to be able to assess potential projects and to be able to distribute funding within the country. So I hope that answers that. Ariel, there's a question on the comments. I don't know if I could answer that.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the question was: as Nigeria engaged with global carbon market opportunities, how do we ensure that these initiatives truly support our climate goals while protecting our land and communities from any risk of exploitation? This is a fantastic question, and thank you, Ms. Zulfatu, for asking this. Again, when discussing about frameworks, we've deliberated with the Nigerian Carbon Market Activation Committee. It's vitally important that we do not repeat some of the mistakes we've made in the past with potential extractive industries. one of the key points in our carbon market activation plan is on benefit sharing and ensuring community participation and community ownership within any project that's emanating from Nigeria. So, I mean, once we get the final documents of the carbon market activation policy and also the manual of procedures, I think it spells out, you know, first of all, the kind of in terms of percentage shares for local communities. So if credits are, you know, coming out of Nigeria, there will be a percentage that goes to those local communities, whether, you know, it might not necessarily be in cash, but it might be in development objectives. So what do those communities require and what is that funding going to be used for? So it's important because the communities are also going to protect those projects. It's no use carrying out projects without, you know, bringing the local community along, because if they don't see the value in protecting some of these projects, then, you know, be to the detriment of that project. I'll give you an example. If you're building perhaps maybe local mini grids, and you know, the local community is not carried along, I mean, you can imagine there could be things like theft, you know, of parts. Same thing if you're doing, you know, afforestation projects, and the local community is not carried along. You know, usually they require wood for cooking and for, you know, for other activities. So if they're not able to be carried along to understand that the reason why they shouldn't cut down trees is because it benefits their community, then you see where some of the issues lie. So it's important, and also the framework ensures that there's you know, robust stakeholder engagement, you know, across all levels of the project to ensure that you know, it's a kind of whole of government, whole of society approach, rather than just you know.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim. May I please add more on your answer?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarifications to Madam Zulfato, or to Zulfato-san, which I really think is a really strong and up to the point question, especially with the previous colonization and everything and the overexploitation of our land. This is a really good question. So so we have two different, I will go giving examples to the compliance, JSAM, and also the voluntary. So starting by your first part of your question, how do we ensure that these initiatives truly support our climate goals? So truly supporting climate goals, for example, for under JSAM, which is the compliant market. So in order to the project to be approved by the JSAM committee, so it will need to be aligned with the country NDC. If the country NDC mitigation roadmap is not included, it's gonna be hard for the project to be accepted by the JSAM committee. So the NDC and the climate goals will be very specific to Nigeria. And one of the good things in JSAM, the JSAMI committee, it's from Japan and also Nigeria, or the partner country, which I really hope Nigeria will be part of the partner countries under the JSAM agreement with Japan. So the government of Japan and the partner country will have like a committee, specific members of this committee from both governments. So the both governments need to approve this project to be able to go through. So the NDC and climate goals and the roadmap of mitigation needs to be very aligned. The project needs to be very aligned with the NDC. So this is the first part of your question. And the second part is, you mentioned protecting our land and communities from any risk of exploitation. So giving the example of gold standard, for example, which is on the voluntary market. So they really focus on on the local people, on the indigenous people, on the safeguard of the local committee. So so for projects to be able also to go through, we need to verify, and we need to how can I say, we need to prove that the land is not, like, this project is not affecting negatively on the citizens and the ecosystem of the project area. So, for example, let's take into consideration like reforestation project. So the land the land area should not make indigenous people get out of their land. So if this is gonna be in the project, then the project will not be able to go through, because we need to protect the indigenous people and the local committee. And for example, for our project AWD for rice paddies, we need to prove, so this requirement is different based on the organism, like the methodology and the verification body, and like different between Vera and Gold Standard and Pure Earth, depending on the project. So for our AWD project, for example, we need to prove that the land, the project area, the paddy fields, has been paddy fields and has not been the result of cutting down trees or like forests or making indigenous people outside of their land for the past 10 years. So for the communities and making sure that the climate goal is met, the community are very protected during the approval and the listing of the project. So I think this part is really taken care of by the organisms, that there are international organisms, that they are making sure that this overexploitation is not going to happen, and protecting the locals and the indigenous people. And I hope this answer your questions and make you reassured that do not worry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Farah-san. And thank you, Mr. Ibrahim, for the answers to the question. We still have some few minutes to take questions. Chidinma, do you still have a question? Yeah, please go on and speak.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, my question is for Mr. Ibrahim, though he tried to somehow answer it. Mr. Ibrahim, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I like your office, and I like very well what we are doing. I have this to say. You know, the one of the thing about climate issue is to tackle the problem from the original source. And one of the issues of climate change is that, taking deforestation, for instance, this happens in rural communities. Like, I work with over 500 women, and I know what it takes me to talk about climate change and talk about deforestation issue in these local communities. Now, and these people doesn't understand what we are saying, and this, and the dangers it has in the society and in our future. What is your office actually doing to make sure that governments, MDAs, where these monies are domiciled with, or those people that will domesticate this carbon template, what is your office doing to ensure that the people in the grassroots, people that are directly involved in this climate issue, get the right information, practice the right act? And what again is your office doing to you talk about cooking stove, for instance. These are actions that are sustainable, but I don't know how far it has gone to these rural communities for them to be able to assess it and use it and understand that this climate issue are real and can be, and they are danger to our communities. What is your office doing in those rural communities involving people that has direct access to emission of this carbon CO2? That's my question to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Chidima. So just to kind of, first of all, clarify, my office is not an implementation office. It's an advisory office. However, we have the National Council on Climate Change. We have the various ministries, departments, and agencies. We also have subnational governments. So what we do essentially is we need that message to filter down to subnational level. One of the programs that we're embarking on is a subnational climate finance readiness program. There's also going to be a climate change awareness tour. So all these things are awareness campaigns, but we also need at subnational level for state actors to also take on this thing. It's not just at the federal level that climate action is going to happen. And as you rightly said, really the source is what we need to get to. So even our interactions with that's ALGON, Association of Local Government of Nigeria, is that we need to start getting the message right down from the local government level, where action is going to, where if we combine the actions of everybody at the subnational level, we'll actually significantly achieve some of our targets. So, I mean, to kind of answer your question, my office is mainly focused right now on the awareness and advocacy side of things, and also capacity building. So we've engaged with a number of states so far, the ones that have been able to, grant us access to speak at the subnational level, to be able to get them to start putting in place things like policies for their own states. Because as you might be aware, at the national level, we might have a policy, but every state has their own unique challenges. Or should I say maybe regions have their own unique challenges. The Sahel regions are facing desertification. The Middle Belt regions are facing things like issues with agriculture due to degraded land. And in the southern part of the country, we're dealing with things like flooding and land erosion. So it's important that we look at this thing within its context. At the federal level, the policy is for the federal, but at the subnational level, states need to start looking at their peculiar solutions and crafting up policies that address state level and right down to local government challenges that they face. And you can imagine the task to go to 36 different states in the country. First of all, it's a monumental task, but we're still on it. And despite some of the challenges that we have, we are constantly engaging with the federal institutions here to ensure that this message really trickles down. But I will also say that there's an opportunity for civil society organizations and NGOs to play their part as well. And again, one of the things that my office is looking at doing, I mentioned to you earlier about the climate change fund that we're trying to operationalize. And it's hoped that some of that funding that comes is able to go into, certainly stakeholder engagement and awareness campaigns that can be issued out to various NGOs and CSOs to be able to go to the communities, speak in the language that people will understand, and be able to simplify some of these messages without them being overly technical, from the federal level. So I think your question was, very on point, and be rest assured that we're doing as much as we can. But we also need the buy-in from the whole of society, because it's not just, as I said, it's not just a government issue. It's actually a whole of the society that will address these issues.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Chidima, for the question. Mr. Ibrahim, thank you for your answers. We also have a question from Mrs. Adedeji. Adedeji, please go on with your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ayo, and good day to everybody. My question is not only for me. One, the first question is the importance of capacity building cannot be overemphasized. How do SME get involved? One. Two, I am an opportunity to be the coordinator of Rice Farming Association in Ogun State. I want to ask Mr. Ibrahim, how are you people getting down to the root for them to know? Like this WDA, the woman from Japan talk about, is a good one. How are we getting this information passed to the grassroots people? Thank you.
Okay, so I think it's similar to what the previous Ms. Chidima's question was in terms of being able to get information down to the grassroots. So just to add that the Climate Change Act that that's the National Council on Climate Change also specifies that the council should also have both regional, zonal, and state offices. Right? These regional and state offices are supposed to engage at the national level to be able to ensure that whatever is happening at the federal is able to trickle down. Now, again, as I mentioned, some of the challenges we face, I would say institutional challenges. So to be able to get that message to trickle down, there are funding issues because a lot of this work, requires funding. As you may or may not know, the council was not in 2025 budget. So a lot of the funding that's required for the council to operate on, is largely maybe donor funding. And due to so many other, things and requirements that are needed, the funding may not necessarily be able to address some of the issues that we need when it comes to going down to that subnational level. But as I said, it is work in progress. In terms of SME involvement, again, I think a lot of private sector players have been working within that space, but we're also in talks with the Bank of Industry to see how we can potentially create some sort of capacity building, perhaps on a regional level. But this is also part of it because we're engaging with the ACCI to be able to reach out and have a lot more of these kind of webinars to be able to sensitize SMEs in terms of what the opportunities are. It is a work in progress. As you said, the ACCI has been able to bring in Green Carbon, who have done a fantastic job in describing to you what some of the projects could look like. But also understand that Nigerian peculiarities may be different. There are some projects that maybe was done in Vietnam that could also translate here. But then we also have our own peculiar challenges, and it would require our own design of projects that meet up with the international methodologies. So a lot of these things are going to come. A lot of these projects, SME capacity building workshops will come up, but it is not just about government. The private sector also, as I said, has a large part to play in this. And we'll hope to see more. As I said, more of my work is on the awareness of climate finance and advocacy to ensure that private sector, government, everybody is understanding the opportunities within this space, and also creating capacity building awareness that will help us develop the kind of projects that we need to even scale, to even get significant amount of funding. Because that's another issue that we face. The criticisms are that Nigeria does not necessarily have the pipeline of projects that will mobilize significant funding. So the onus is on us. When I say us now, not just government, but private sector, to also look into this space and create collaborations that will ensure that we're able to develop these sizable projects that can mobilize significant funding.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim, for the answer. Before I go to the next question, I'll just to add to what you were saying and make a clear clarification. Now, with the existing framework and policies that we have, can we say that, for example, Green Carbon as a project developer can start talking to a cooperative or an SME like Mrs. Adedeji's SME in Rice Farmers Association or Rice Growers in Ogun State? So can we say with our existing framework, does it allow such projects or conversation to start and development of such projects? Just to make it a very straightforward answer. Can just help us clarify that?
Most definitely, and that is what we even encourage. We encourage we encourage partnerships. So you look out for, I mentioned in my presentation about regional collaboration as well. So look at what developers are doing in other parts of Africa, whether it's Kenya, Ghana, and look for the expertise that is able to give that hand-holding and guidance. The framework that we have at the national level is so that once you have gone to the point of developing a project, there is a process flow to be able to register your project to be eligible for credits. So you submit your initial documentation to the National Council on Climate Change, which goes through it and verifies it to ensure that it aligns with the national priorities. And then they proceed to issue a letter of no objection, which allows you to proceed with that project. Now, after that project has gone through the various processes, validation from verification bodies, and the necessary audits and checks, it now comes, the entity now comes back to the National Council on Climate Change to get a letter of authority to be able to now access its credits. So that's kind of the high-level process flow for credits. But certainly, we encourage conversations. Green Carbon can have a conversation with the Rice Association, of course. There's no limit in terms of whether it's capacity building or whether it's project development. I think these partnerships actually help, given the fact that carbon markets are still a relatively new sector in Nigeria. So there will be that need for international collaborations to be able to move the market forward.
Thank you very much. It's been a long call. I think we just have these two hands that have been up. So we'll just take these two last questions. Farah-san, I know is late over there in Japan. Please bear with us. So let's just take this last two questions from Fasui and Mr. Afi. So Fasui, please. Mrs. Fasui.
Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Can you hear me too?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go on.
Okay. I want to appreciate Mr. Ibrahim and every stakeholder involved in this meeting. I want to appreciate everyone for this wonderful presentation. For Nigeria, we have a lot of presentations. We have a lot of ideas. I've been following Mr. Ibrahim now for quite a long time. He has been an advocate of climate change. But so that this will not just be another meeting, could there be a platform or like someone like this, capacity building, apart from capacity building, a kind of training program that can be organized for people that will be interested to complement the government fight for this climate change, the carbon market? Is there any training that could be organized? Is there any partnership that can happen so that we can also be part and parcel of these initiatives? Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Fajri. I think this is a start. I mean, this is a training in itself. I think Green Carbon have done a fantastic job in, you know, not necessarily making it too technical, but giving you that, you know, broad-based understanding. In terms of more technical training sessions, I mean, you can imagine, I don't know how many SMEs we have in Nigeria, but imagine trying to, you know, do training sessions for every SME. It takes time. It takes a lot of, you know, there are a lot of moving parts to get that happening. I think with the ACCI, you know, we've had some discussions, and what we're looking at is perhaps maybe sector-based approaches, you know, based on the different sectors in their portfolio. But certainly, what you know, what my office is also working on, we're working on things like capacity buildings for financial institutions. That's coming on board. We're also doing something with the Judicial Institute, so that we have we increase capacity of our legal you know, legal system to be able to protect you know, foreign investors, for them to understand that, you know, our judges are up to speed when it comes to climate matters. So just to give you an idea that, I mean, these things do there's a lot to do, and we cannot all do it all, because as I mentioned, some of the funding challenges that we have. But it is certainly a work in progress, and these kind of webinars, I think, helps create awareness. And there's nothing stopping, you know, entities. I know even the likes of the Capital Market Association, the NGX have done some webinars on green finance and similar things. So I, you know, totally understand where you're coming from, and best believe that we are looking at seeing, you know, how we can increase these kind of, you know, webinars, whether it's physical sessions, to be able to, you know, increase and raise capacity, not just at, you know, for SMEs, but generally within the private sector, and even in MDAs and subnational levels as well. So it's, you know, it's a whole of society capacity building that we need to do, but it is a work in progress.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, okay, Farasan, you want to say something?
Yeah, may I add to Mr. Ibrahim's question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so regarding capacity building, so we collaborate with local entities in our within our project area. So with the help of the local entities, we provide like knowledge session and for explaining what the farmers are need to do, why they need to do this, and what is the outcome. So for the capacity building, we work closely with our project stakeholders to inform them of what is the technique, how they should do it, like all the teeny tiny details of the operations and the importance of these methods, and the implementation with our local partners. So the local partners are very much included within the project, and mainly 90% of the project financing is going for local, for the local people. Like, for example, we collaborate with universities. And we provide incentives for farmers to be able to have like another extra income, and to help them, like motivate them, and to include like these new technologies. As we know, like change is a little bit difficult, but with the right motivation, then they will have like the right motivation and knowledge, and enough knowledge, then it will be feasible and able to implement these new technologies with the local people, with the local citizens and local entities. So this is regarding the capacity building, as well as the funding. So so one of the most important things is to establish the agreements, the bilateral agreements, like, and establish the carbon market. So once this is well established and we have like clear regulations, then the project developers will be able to invest. Like, because investing, we need to have like a revenue, and the project needs to be sustainable on itself to be able to operate for several years. So for example, our projects are go for like 10 years. So in order this project to be able to live this long and to be able to be operational and sustainable, we need to have also a source of revenue, and this source of revenue is under the carbon units that will be later on sold. So once the carbon market is established, then it's gonna be easier for Nigeria to promote and boost and attract financial international finances. And we're very looking forward to this, and we're very happy to help in this innovation and in this involvement of the carbon market, as Mr. Ibrahim mentioned. And I know that it's not easy. It requires a lot of efforts and a lot of work. Especially this is a new area, and this is an evolving market and domain. And we're very much looking forward to this next steps together. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Father-son.
Sorry, moderator. Sorry, may I just add quickly that green financing or carbon market, or we're talking about, it is more than funding, which we're talking about. It's actually like a pathway to climate resilience, about sustainable growth and healthier living. And that's why the issue of the compliance market, when we talk about the issue of the carbon market framework in Nigeria, we can't overemphasize that, because that's why the regulation come in. That's why the environment, social governance come in. It has to be taken very seriously, so that it's not as if we are just embarking on a futile effort. So I think those areas, the Nigeria Carbon Market Committee and the extractive industry needed to look at those areas, and this will ensure that a sustainability plan going forward for that sector. So that's what I just want to quickly chip in before the close of the call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akin. Thank you for your advice and for the comments. We would continue to work together on this to see how we can improve this, we can contribute to the system. And also, just to add to Mr. Fasui's question about capacity building, a large part of our members here at the chambers are SMEs, and that's why the chamber specifically set up the unit to support in building the capacities of our business and our members in the area of climate sustainability and ESG. So we'll continue with different programs and activities to enhance the capacity, even the knowledge of our SMEs. And the best center, that's this year best center, which the unit is under, is actually the training and capacity building arm of the chamber. So if we discuss further and we see the need for specific, maybe a longer frame, time frame of training, we can definitely put that together and ensure that everyone that needs to get the knowledge and enhance their capacity gets that. Mr. Fiz, your hand has been up for a while. Do you still want to ask the question, because we just have?
Yes, I want to. Firstly, before going into
as possible, because we have to finish in the next 5 minutes.
I appreciate everyone for this insightful session. I want to mention Ms. Farah Zirai of Green Carbon. She mentioned that her organization partners with universities. I, for one, am the founder of Confidence Consults, an organization that is into capacity building across our universities. So I would like to also make this statement to put myself open to contact Green Carbon through for partnership opportunity, collaboration opportunity in terms of capacity building at university levels. That's our first instance. Secondly, I would also like to appreciate the SSA, Mr. Ibrahim Sheleng, concerning his insight on the bottom-top approach when it comes to capacity building. And also he mentioned a co-benefit sharing when it comes to projects, climate projects. My question actually is pointed to Mr. Ibrahim Sheleng. It's also on climate finance, sir. The question is, firstly, which climate finance mechanisms are mostly used in Nigeria? I understand that you mentioned that carbon markets are still coming up, but I would like to know which of those mechanisms are mostly used in Nigeria. Is it blended finance, adaptation grants, green bonds, or carbon markets, if it exists? And also, sir, secondly, what are the gaps and opportunities of climate finance in Nigeria, sir? No, I'm asking a lot.
Yeah, you have
My work
just one
deals with
question.
capacity building. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let me just answer. I mean, we're running out of time. In terms of, I put in the presentation, in terms of climate financing, about 75% of climate financing to the country has been largely concessional loans, multilateral loans from the likes of the World Bank and other multilateral sources. So they've been mainly debt-based instruments. Now, again, as I said, because of the fiscal position of the country, we're trying to advocate for increased funding that is non-debt. So, carbon markets presents one of those opportunities. We're looking at, other blended finance opportunities, and even looking domestically to see how, we could raise, domestic funding to tackle some of the adaptation financing that's required. So I think that kind of summarizes, where it's been. So it's been largely I think over 75% of climate financing to this country has been largely concessional loans.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
I'll now invite Dr. Tinu, the director of the ACCI Best Center, to give us
sir,
closing remarks.
I've not heard from Green Carbon, sir.
So we can always continue the conversation.
Email them also. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Farasan. Please, can we have access to your slides for your presentation?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Yes, as regards the presentation, Mr. Lanre is going to liaise with Mr. Ibrahim and Farah to ensure how the possibility and how this could get across to all participants. Then before I go straight to my closing remarks, I would like to ask if each and every one of us register on the registration link before we are able to join in, because it's very important for us to harvest your email addresses and contacts to share the information you required. But if you didn't register and you were able to log into the meeting room directly, I'll suggest you DM your email address and contacts to the ACCI Best chat room, or you just put it on the chat room so that the team can get it out. So good, it's already afternoon. It's very interesting because virtually everyone, majority have stayed on from the beginning of this webinar till the end, which is almost 2 hours now. This shows that it's very interesting and we have a lot to learn. As mentioned, my name is Dr. Tinike Timitope and I am the director of the ACCI Best Center. And I would like to, on behalf of Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I would like to sincerely thank Mr. Ibrahim Sheleng, the SSA to the President on Climate Finance and Stakeholder Engagement, and also Farah Zribi, I hope I got it right, from Green Carbon, all the way from Japan. Thank you for the insightful presentation. I was very glued to my system, especially at the beginning, because I was hearing a lot of interesting and exciting things that I'm probably not even aware of, the vast opportunities that are in climate finance that we as individual SME and country and Nigeria as a country can benefit from. We are deeply grateful for this opportunity, and your contributions has definitely broadened our understanding and provided practical pathways for us
And it has also made it clear, all your presentation, and I must also appreciate all the people that asked question. Yes, thank you very much. Because the question has further made it clear that climate finance is not just a policy. It is definitely an opportunity for growth, resilience, and competitiveness for Nigerian businesses. We are confident that with collaboration between the government, private sector, and international partners, we can unlock these opportunities and position our members and everyone in our network at the forefront of green economy. As a Chamber of Commerce, which is one of the leading Chamber of Commerce in Nigeria, we reaffirm our commitment to continue convening conversations such as this to support everyone with the knowledge, tools, and partnership needed to thrive sustainably. So I would like to say thank you once again. If you still have your question that has not been answered, you can also private chat us, or you get the team kindly drop the Best Center email address and contact if you need to reach out to us again on any of the topic, any of the presentation, then we can provide the relevant information you required. So on this note, I would like to bring this to a close, but we are not closing. Actually, this is just the beginning of series of conversations that is going to happen. One thing that is very key and important for me is capacity in this sector. A lot of us, a lot of our members and networks needs adequate information so that we can take advantage of all of these opportunities, especially for the small, medium, and micro enterprises. So we'll definitely be reaching out to each and every one of us. So I will say thank you very much for participating, and we hope when we call on you the next time, you'll be available. Then please, you can always reach out to us anytime on this topic and several other topics at the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And for us in Abuja, I would like to invite us to the 20th edition of the Abuja International Trade Fair. It's starting on the 25th, which is Thursday of this month, to 6th of October. So we'd like you to come around to network, to create more business opportunity for yourself. So thank you very much once again, and see you next time.
Yeah, thank you, Ma. And please, if you can turn on our cameras, we can just take a quick group photograph. So we just take a quick group photo before we end the call. So if you can turn on your camera just.
So can we put on our cameras, please, so we can have a nice group picture to end this interesting conversation?
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I would at the count of 3, I'll do the capture. 1, 2, 3. Okay, just one more, just to go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay. Just one more. Okay. Okay, done. Yeah. Thank you very much. See you guys. See you at the next webinar. Thank you. Farah-san, thank you very much. Have a good night rest.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Barry.
for staying till this
Thank you so
time. I'm
much,
sure
Mr.
to be
Barry.
maybe 9
We
p.m.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I saw Alisa also.
Mr.
Alisa-san,
Barry,
thank you very
Ariyo,
much.
thank you so much. We
With regards to
appreciate
the Green Carbon team, Paul-san,
you so
thank you
much.
very much for staying till this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.